All right, welcome back, everyone. If you are just hopping on, we will give it a couple minutes here so that folks can join us live. This is ShareTheCare's Resources Within Reach series. I am Christie Freeze, founder of Care by Christie, and each and every Thursday, I'm bringing on a resource that is within reach, especially here in Indiana, in central Indiana, and I'm so excited. I have Mindi here tonight with me from, I keep saying Saccoa and Dementia Friends. Is that correct?
It's the organization Saccoa, but Dementia Friends is the program, and that is what I coordinate. So that's where my energy is going to go today. But
beautiful. That's what I was hoping.
Yes,
I hopped on earlier today and I was like, I hope we talk about Dementia Friends because I love that. And if you are not able to tune in live with us, don't worry. You can catch the replays on YouTube, here on Facebook, and then the podcast is ShareTheCare, all one word, and that's on Apple, Spotify, and wherever you're listening to your favorite podcast. So let's dive right in. I would love if you would just introduce yourself to us and share a little bit of your background and what led you to your current role.
For sure. Well, as we were just talking before we went live, I'll try to make this short. I'll try to make it as short as I can, but I know myself well and I might take us on a winding path. So if I do, just bear with me.
That's all good.
My name is Mindi Winnie. I'm a dementia education specialist at Saccoa, Aging and In-Home Solutions. And I'll kind of go into Saccoa, like we mentioned, Dementia Friends Indiana, kind of talk about some of the other services that make up our organization. But I guess a little bit about me. I was thinking about this earlier and I'm like, where do I even start?
Yeah.
So I'm going to take us back a bit. I'm going to take us back really to my childhood. So shortly after I was born, my mom and I moved in with my grandparents, so her parents. And, just truthfully, I was so fortunate. I was an only child at the time and an only grandchild to my grandparents. So I had their full attention, their full love, unconditional love. I mean, I did not do wrong. Which is, why I think I have some issues today. Or maybe think I'm a little bit more important than what I really am.
Oh, I think it's perfect.
But my grandparents, and especially have just a relationship with both of them, but certainly my grandmother. I mean, she was my number one fan, did not miss anything. I mean, she was the one who picked me up after school, dropped me off at the dance studio or the soccer fields, or took me through McDonald's or wherever I needed to go. She was like my taxi cab. But, I share that because I just want to set the scene of like the relationship that I had with my grandparents. And truthfully, it was almost like, because my mom and I had moved in with them and my mom was working. She was trying to make ends meet. So it was almost like the dynamic was like my grandparents kind of served as my parents. And then I kind of felt like my mom was like this big sister to me.
Yeah.
So needless to say, hit the fast forward button. So my freshman year of high school, again, we live very close to my grandparents at this point in time. We're not living with them anymore, but we live close and we see them on a daily basis. Sure. And we're starting to just pick up on things with my grandma, strange behaviors, mood changes. I think for me, when I reflect back on this period of our lives, I just can't help but just really, acknowledge the behavioral and the mood changes that were with my grandma. So just this persistent anxiety and depression that just seemed to kind of come out of nowhere. And, just the simple things of forgetting familiar recipes or just knowing how to initiate tasks. And again, like at the time, we were not able to put our finger on that. It was just going on. Exactly. And so again, I'm about a freshman in high school at this point, 14 years old or so. And I'll never forget, it was February of like 2006. And, I'm not going to share the exact situation, but there was a turning point where it became very clear she doesn't have control of her brain, or again, of her thoughts, and just really feeding into these irrational thoughts. And I mean, there was a moment we didn't know if she was going to be with us much longer. Just this persistent depression.
Yeah.
And so again, there was just this incident that happened. And although it still scares me to think about it today, it was the catalyst to lead us to this diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease. So again, my grandma, of course, she was like this #1 fan, amazing to me, but she ran a daycare out of her home for 20 plus years. And I mean, she did it all, she ran the house. And then here you've got this happening, and it's like, okay, now who's gonna do
all of the things?
Who's gonna like manage the house? Who's gonna manage finances? I mean, she did it all. And so again, throughout high school, I mean, it really, looking back, it was really quite a quick progression, but so kind of all throughout high school, again, little things, but she's still able to function on her own and everything. But then I get to my freshman year of college, and I did not go far. I went about 12 miles down the road from my hometown to college. And thankfully I did, because I was able to be a source of support for my family. And I'll never forget my grandpa coming up to me as after spring semester of my freshman year, and just asking me, hey, would you be willing to help grandpa out? Because he was looking to go back to working. So he had retired, but after being home with her for about 4 years, needing that respite, needing some sort of a break.
Yes.
Again, I did not know. It truly took me working at Saccoa to really, truly grasp what my family had experienced in these years.
And to put vocabulary to it, to know that was him saying, I need a respite stay.
Yes.
To know
yes.
You were being asked to be a caregiver, and you would have never probably put that vocabulary to what you were experiencing.
Never. And as an 18-year-old, again, I mean, caregiver, all these, just all these like buzzwords. It's like, again, I never think somebody at my age would be a caregiver. Or again, you're just in this bubble. You don't recognize actually how prevalent it is for even millennials to be caregivers for people of dementia. To that. But, again, it's like at the time you think, I have to be the only 18-year-old who is caring for their grandmother at this point in time. And it certainly was not the case, I'm sure. And it still isn't the case today. But you're right. Exactly. Being able to like put words to that and truly understand what the experience was. And so, of course, I said yes to helping, because I'm not going to turn my grandpa down. And I feel like the irony of all of that was like, here my grandma was this babysitter for all these years, and here kind of these roles are reversing, and I'm now the one that's tasked with making sure her needs are being met and making
she's safe.
Yes, exactly. The biggest thing. I mean, really, when he approached me, it was more of a, do you mind coming and staying with grandma? I mean, I think he went over things eventually, but there was no like, hey, can you come over to administer her insulin and her stuff?
We're going to need you for a 4-hour shift. And then if you could like recap.
Right, exactly. So again, had he come at me and been very direct with what I was going to be doing, I'm certain I would have still done it. But again, I'm just thinking, how hard could it be? I mean, at this point, we had lived 2 miles away from their house. So all I had to do that summer was just roll out of bed, drive down to their house.
And hang out with your fave person. Like, okay.
Exactly.
Sign me up.
Exactly. Until the first day I show up and turn the front door, walk into the house, and it's like, I'm just like smacked with this just smell. And it leads me back to the bedroom. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I've got quite a mess on my hands, and that was just day in and day out, just this incontinence. And again, like I said, it was probably 4, almost 5 years since she had like received the diagnosis, but progressing pretty quickly. I mean, to the point where, like I said, I mean, it was by the time I got her up and out of the bed and into the bathroom, cleaned her up, went back to the bedroom, grabbed the sheets, fed her, brushed her hair, everything.
Yeah.
At 10 years old. And again, I'm just doing it day in,
Right.
day out. And, for me, what was significant. So the reason I chose to go to this college was I had an opportunity to still play soccer. And again, close to home, it was like, great. Well, as I'm caring for my grandmother that summer, I didn't condition one time. I think I went on one run. And so, the end of summer is approaching, and not that I was this great soccer player or anything, but I loved it. I loved being a part of a team, and I gave it up because I just, quite frankly, I was exhausted.
Yeah. Yes.
In one summer. And that was probably 5 straight months that
as an 18-year-old.
As an 18-year-old. And again, like, I feel so selfish being like, oh, I'm so exhausted, thinking about my mom who was working full time and then driving straight to my grandparents' house, coming home, dinner for all of us, getting my grandma, basically picking up where my grandpa left off to get, right? So again, it's like, I still can't help but just feel a bit selfish and guilty when I say, here, I'm so exhausted. But exactly when you just don't even know what's going on and you're just trying to do the best with what you have with no knowledge, no training. You're just trying. And like you said before, I mean, that safety piece, like just feeling this immense responsibility to keep her safe, to keep her alive or keep her out of trouble, or keep her from wandering out of the house before my grandpa gets home. So again, just immersed into this world that I did not even recognize I was in until several years later down the road. But again, I know we're on a winding path, but we're getting there. So, again, fast forwarding, she ended up passing away 3 months after I graduated from college. So, to provide that direct care was my freshman year, and then 3 months after she had passed away. So again, just this quick progression in it, although I'm sure it wasn't quick for my grandfather or my mom, or, again, it wasn't quick, but it was just such a whirlwind. And never did we truly understand. It's like, once she got that diagnosis, hell, we had a hard time just pronouncing Alzheimer's disease.
Right.
Let alone understanding like what's actually happening to her brain. And
how do we support her, and what resources exist?
Do we communicate with her now that she can't talk to us anymore? So again, just knowledge or understanding of this condition that we were caring for day in and day out. And so after college and after she had passed away, about a year later, I had the opportunity to move down here to Indianapolis. So I'm originally from Michigan, and
Michigan girls.
Woo woo, yeah. Oh, that's home. It still is home. Still can't claim that I'm a Hoosier. I love Indianapolis, but I just am like, one day I'll be back to Great Lakes Day for sure. Also recognizing like I have to fly. I have to fly away from the nest. Like, my family's been in this area for forever.
Sure.
And I just knew if I don't take this opportunity to get out, I don't know that I'll ever get out.
Totally fair.
Not that it's a bad place, but again, like just feeling like, okay, if I'm going to go and be anything or just be somebody I'm proud of, I gotta go. I gotta make it for myself. So decided to move down and really did not have a plan in place at all. And I truly think it's probably one of the only risks I've ever taken in my life too. So I moved down and work a couple jobs before I get to Saccoa. But one of the jobs, I was a career counselor at Atterbury Job Corps, so down in Edinburgh, Indiana. And I had one of my colleagues there, actually. We were out to dinner one night and her partner worked at Saccoa. And she's just going on and on and on about her job. And she was a couple years older than me, but I like looked her dead in the eye and I was like, I have never met anybody that's like in my generation that's actually fulfilled by their job. Like, I'm really intrigued by it.
Tell me more about this.
Exactly.
And
so
where
like,
do I sign up?
That's pretty much, I was like, can you just send me like, how do I, apply for a job or see what's available there? And like never when I was going to college. I mean, I have a bachelor's in psychology. So thankfully psychology applies to just about anything, but it's also really hard to narrow that down into a focus. So, for me, I'm just like, I don't know what I really truly wanted to be a probation officer. And so I was kind of working in juvenile homes, or just trying to really feel out if that's actually what I wanted to do or not. And so again, just it all is just so serendipitous to me, truly. It's like, how in the world did this happen? Because it's not just a coincidence, in my opinion, that this, played out the way that it did. But so yeah, I had applied to be a phone options counselor in the agency, and that's where I started. And here I just kind of got my footing about who is Saccoa, what do we offer to folks in the community, and not only that, but understanding there's this vast world of resources around us. Like, so many. And this is why, just thank you for what you do, because just shining a light on these resources that, I mean, I'm sure you hear it all the time. People are like, I wish I'd have known you several years ago. I wish I'd have met you. I wish our paths would have crossed, and again, it's like here all these years and people still don't, just recognize that they can just give us a call, and just start that conversation somewhere. There's somebody out there that's willing to listen to you and help guide you to where you need to be. So, again, as anxious as I was living with anxiety and ADHD, like working in the aging and disability resource and answering live calls truly was like the most anxiety provoking thing in my life. Because, again, it's like, I don't know what's on the other end of that call. Like a lot of folks are just calling just, again, to ask questions, to understand what their long-term care options are. Yeah. But some of those calls were heavy and hard, and so again, just being so young and being in this brand new city. But anyways, it led me to an opportunity within Saccoa to work one-on-one with family caregivers. And so that I remember probably the first week of working at Saccoa, I met who was in the role currently. And I was like, I'm going to do that job one day. Like, I'm going to be that person. And it happened much sooner than I figured that it would. And, I was only in that role for just over a year or so. And, again, like my whole mindset was like, wow, my family's been through this. Like, I've also been through this personally. I think that there's wisdom I can share, some experience, again, I understand the services of Saccoa. I understand resource. Like, again, I just felt like I could be a resource to people. I could be a shoulder to cry on. Good at hugs, Yeah. But I think for me, where I really acknowledged the struggle for me was just working with caregivers, because I mean, it is just the trust that these folks have in you to confide in you and to share some of the most challenging and the hardest and the most vulnerable situations they've ever been in their life. Although that's such an honor, it's such a weight to carry. Yeah. I just never felt, and like we were kind of talking before, it's like kind of this self-healing journey. You don't really recognize it when you like fall into these roles, but you're like, there's a big part of myself I'm trying to heal here too. Mm-hmm. Again, just kind of rehash and reflect on and understand. And I think it was like the more I worked with them, the more it just took me back. And it was just like, okay, this is great. I feel I can help, but I also think I underestimated how much I was helping, totally. Because I couldn't fix every situation. I couldn't take that pain away from them. To me, in my mind, I wasn't doing my job. I wasn't doing enough for them. Yeah. And it's taken me years to really look back and go, sometimes people just need you to sit there and not say anything. Sometimes 1000%. They need you to just be. Yeah. Be present and allow them to share and to not judge them for how they're. Mm-hmm. And so again, in the moment, I think there was a lot of just personal things with myself of just not feeling confident enough in the tools and the experiences that I had. Also just not knowing how to take this load they had, I had asked for them to dump that on me,
Sure.
but
Like, what
not
do I do
knowing
now.
exactly where do I put this, because taking it home with me and then every caregiver you're working with, it's all just building up. So it's like at some point, something's got to give. So finally, here we are. So at that time, I'm kind of looking to transition out of this caregiver options counseling role. And that is when Dementia Friends Indiana, or that's when Saccoa became the state administrator for this Dementia Friends Indiana program. And so at the time, because of the role I was in, I was approached to start leading information sessions. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. But I was approached to just do essentially public speaking, to just go out and lead these 1 hour sessions.
Spread the word.
Talk about dementia, it's like, sometimes it's hard for me to wrap my mind around the fact, like, that's what I do for a living. I talk to people about dementia,
You're so good.
And I love doing it, but again, it is a bit of a healing journey for me too.
Sure.
Just allowing other people to feel comfortable enough to share what's on their heart, what they've been through, what they're going through. And so needless to say, it just kind of was history from there. So I just started getting involved quietly, behind the scenes, leading these sessions. And that's where I kind of went like, that's what I want to do with my life, or at least, that I want to do short term is, shift from this counseling role more into this educational role, I guess you could say. And so, that's truly just, again, the winding pathway to kind of where I started and how I'm, or where I'm at now. Again, like I said, it just feels like serendipity.
100%. Divine timing is.
Yes.
That has been really showing up for me a ton lately.
Yeah.
Divine timing is no joke. And I thought of something that I remind myself of a lot. And so maybe it'll be a nugget that will help you or anyone.
Yeah.
But I always say that my favorite thing to be, and that's, I love doing what you just mentioned. Like, we are inviting people to give me what you got. Yeah. But when we can just create space for them and just be the space for what they need, it doesn't stay on us. It doesn't stick with us. It can kind of just flow through you.
Yeah.
And when I kind of try to keep that like super top consciously of mind, I have noticed that the family caregiver that is giving me their kind of situation, you can literally feel their shoulders.
Crazy.
And it's like, whoa, like I was just ready for someone to tell me that that was wrong, or that's not what I'm supposed to be doing, or I'm not doing it the right way. And I'm like, well, no, like,
right.
I'm just here to be the space for what you need.
Yes.
And my ear has just been trained to provide you with the resources that make sense based on what you just told me, because I'm actively listening, and I'm not here to judge. I'm not here to provide like telling you how to do this, this, and this.
Right.
It allows for me to be able to connect you to resources that just make sense for what I just heard.
Yeah.
And then they can go flourish.
And to have that wisdom, both of us are relatively young. So to have that wisdom and to know, like, okay, as much as I want to fix for you, that's not my job. And the space piece, I got chills when you said that. That's what it is. It's just allowing them.
Yeah.
And
so many people don't even ever have that opportunity. You were 18 years old and you didn't have it most likely for at least that 4-year stint. No one probably was like, hey, did you just want to unpack what you're going through and what you're experiencing?
Absolutely.
You'd have been like, I'm sorry, are you talking to me?
Yeah. Wait, me? Like, I don't know. Yeah. But, I would run back to school and pretend like that was not happening at home. There probably was some level of, embarrassment's not the right word, but again.
No, but I know what you mean. Yeah. And I think that, I don't know, I like to keep honestly kind of hanging out on the fact that you were 18, and I am not saying that to like, you mentioned like feeling guilt around saying how exhausted you were. And I don't want anyone watching to feel that guilt at 40 or 50 or 60 or 20 or any age. because they all feel like they're going through it all by themselves.
Yes, absolutely.
And like,
most of the
they're going
time,
to tell you they're not.
right. And it's like, already that, but then again, especially with a dementia diagnosis, people just don't understand what this condition is. And the fact that everyone you meet, it's different. It manifests differently in nearly everybody. So I've heard people say before, you meet one person with Alzheimer's, you've met one person with Alzheimer's.
Everyone is different.
Yes, absolutely.
There's not a cookie cutter solution. There's not a cookie cutter, like, here you go. Here's this plug and play manual.
Yes. Yes. And it's like, gosh, I mean, even just like going back to that, like, okay, I didn't know that embarrassment was the right word, but it's like, again, that stigma. Just not feeling like I have anybody, like I'm sure my best girlfriends knew. Times I'd take friends back to my grandparents' house, and I'll never forget taking my boyfriend over there for the first time and just being so scared. Because again, it's like,
like, what is he gonna think? How's she gonna act? What's
gonna
happen? I don't
absolutely know. And she just takes one look at him and she's like, he's cute. And I was like, all right, that's great. And he laughed.
Where we're going.
He's like, I guess that's what it is today, And I mean, it's like, I can just see where that stigma was so present in our lives. And, because of that stigma, you feel so isolated. Totally. On this island alone, when in fact, just in this state alone, there's like 340,000 plus caregivers. And that's just for Alzheimer's disease. So that's not even like all the different types of dementia. That's just one type of dementia that we're kind of looking at how many unpaid caregivers are.
Unreal.
And that's like people who've been diagnosed.
And like
actually understand
about it. Yeah. Wow. That's
not even counting the people who have not been diagnosed or the people
that don't know that they're being a caregiver or like all the things.
Yes.
Fascinating. And it's just fascinating about the stigma. Like that's still true. It's 2021 and it's still super, super true. I'll just keep going Facebook Live every day of the week and talking about senior living and elder care so that people don't feel weird.
Yes, seriously. Well, and that's just it, is like, even like when I started working at Saccoa, once I really felt like I had this understanding of who we were as an agency and what we had to offer, it's like, I felt like I was just kind of on the rooftops, like shouting about it. Like I swear all my probably thinking in their head, they never said it, but they're probably all thinking like, if you say dementia one more time, or you talk about aging, or you talk about caregiving, like, but at the same time, I had a friend from college over winter reach out to me and disclose that her mom had been diagnosed with frontotemporal dementia. Just where do we start? And so it's like, as much as I don't want to be this, I don't want to bring this heavy topic to the table all the time, but at the same time, it's like, we need to start talking about this with our loved ones. And
if we just plant seeds, that's what you're doing. All you're doing is planting seeds.
Absolutely.
And if their loved one ends up with the diagnosis, then their seed can blossom. And then they also have a person to like water their seed and like grow their garden. And now there's a whole garden metaphor happening. For sure. I brought my plants to the party. I
love it. And I brought the flowers. So
together we're crushing it. Okay. So I would love if we could talk about, because I think that's when I met you, is when you were being low key about Dementia Friends, but then we were like, hey, did you want to do like a whole event?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that was like shortly after I had stepped into this role. So I've been with CICOA for about 5.5 years now, but like I said, a few different roles, but I will never forget where we first met, and then even coming to visit you and just, all right, how do we put this in? I mean, you were really kind of one of the first people to give me a chance, honestly, to share this message and to bring folks together in the community. And it's just wild. Like here we are 3 years later, you're doing, I mean, it just, again, you talk about that divine. Exactly.
So divine. I love it.
Absolutely.
So for everyone that's watching, I would love if you could share like where they could go to learn about Dementia Friends, who it's for, like who would benefit from taking advantage. And then we will, after that, shift into where everyone can find you, like contact with you.
Cool.
And then my favorite question, and we'll get to that.
Perfect. So I guess before I really dive in, I guess for folks who are watching with us who may not be familiar with Saccoa, you hear me keep saying Saccoa, you're like, how the heck do I even spell that? Well, it's CICOA, and Saccoa Aging and In-Home Solutions. That's the full name, but if you just refer to us as Saccoa, that's sufficient too. But just real quick, Saccoa is the largest area agency on aging here in the state of Indiana. So we do cover Marion County and then the 7 surrounding counties. So really this central Indiana. But if you don't live in central Indiana, good news is there's an area agency on aging that covers your county that you live in. And what I think is really cool, and another thing I just shout from the rooftops, is even if you're not in the state of Indiana, but you live, say, back in Michigan, or you live out west somewhere, there is an agency like Saccoa or like the area agencies on aging that will cover your county.
Yeah.
So at minimum, everybody will have access to at least information and referral services. So really, again, that's kind of the starting point for Saccoa, or the front door of our agency. Like I had mentioned, I was a phone options counselor. So we have an aging and disability resource center. So people will just call in there and they just want to know, what are my options for my loved one? You know, I'm not ready to place them into a long-term care community quite yet, or we're kind of on the fence about assisted living, but if we could keep her home for a while, you know, maybe. So just helping folks explore that in an unbiased way. And, you know, we assess folks to see if they're eligible for funding sources like the Medicaid waiver program or the choice program. And so again, you know, those funds are used to provide home and community-based service or in-home services, you know, in the home, or again, assisted living, independent living. So, you know, I just encourage everybody, you don't need to know exactly what you're looking for.
Just go check it out.
You know, exactly. If you have burning questions that you just don't even know where to start, I would say Saccoa is the place to start, because if you call us, I mean, we're trained, of course, to assess you to see if you're eligible for any of our services. But at the end of the day, our goal is to at least connect you to
someone, a resource.
Exactly. Something, a next step. You know, again, if you're not quite ready for our services or where we're at, you know, we're gonna kind of give you some action items to work your way up to that point. So you know, just I want to just make that very clear to everybody that.
And I'm going to put all of those links and sites and all of the contact information in the comments.
Perfect. Very good. Very good. So, you know, again, as you move through the process, for folks who appear to be eligible for Saccoa services, they move on to our field options counseling staff. So these folks are really initiating the service plan, I guess you could say. So they're really helping the families understand exactly what these funding sources are, what might be available to them, and helping them craft that plan. And then they send that off to the state for approval. So they're kind of in that interim, you know, where it's like, hey, they're not quite ready to start, but we're getting them to that point and really holding their hand until services start. And at that point, you move on to an ongoing care manager. And that's by far the largest. I believe we have over 200 care managers about in our organization. That could be wrong, but Saccoa, we've got over 300 people working at our organization. Wow. It's a large operation, especially for a nonprofit. So, but outside of that, we have nutrition services, so like home delivered meals. COVID, we did the congregate meal sites, transportation services, minor home modification like wheelchair ramps, grab bars, handrails, caregiver support, of course, like I'm in that role for a short period of time, but we still have that. Now, one thing to be very clear of is that's one-on-one support. So we do not offer any support groups out of Saccoa, but we certainly in that role can help connect you with support groups that are located across central Indiana. So I want to just be very clear when I say caregiver support, at least from Saccoa's angle, it's so much support groups, but really that one-on-one support for folks. And I'm feeling like I'm missing some department within Saccoa, and I do apologize if anybody from
Well, just put it in the comments.
Exactly. But that leads me to Dementia Friends Indiana. So this is where I just go like completely giddy. So what's really cool about this program is, yes, it's Dementia Friends Indiana, but this is a part of something so much bigger than me or any of the people that are volunteers for this movement. This actually started over in the United Kingdom through their Alzheimer's Society. And it's since spread into like 56 different countries. So at this point in time, there are 56 different Dementia Friends programs all across the globe. So it's the largest awareness initiative around this condition. And so I just again, over the moon, proud to be a kind of an understatement, but I just, like I said, to me, I just find it so fascinating that here, in all these different countries, we're out leading these information sessions that really cover, just the fundamental information.
Basics, just basics.
Yes. If you had 1 hour to learn about dementia, if you came here, you'd probably have a good grasp of at least understanding what those folks are going through and knowing how to support them.
Yeah.
Minimum, which hey, if that's all you've got, perfect. It's to start. So I just find it fascinating that here, again, these 1 hour sessions are just being translated in all these different languages. But at the end of the day, we're all teaching our communities about the very same things. So, right here in Indiana, we kicked off this program in August of 2017. So we're just about 3.5 years into the works, which is crazy that it's even been that long. It's just kind of flown by. And then of course with the last year, I don't know that we can really count that as a year.
It doesn't count.
Oh, we'll just say that didn't hold us back. Keep moving. But what's been really neat is in the 3.5 years, we have helped educate or connected with over 7,700 people across the state. So something that, again, it's
that's my favorite number is 7. So I'm really that just happened.
Well, the exact number is 7,775 people. So almost 7,777 too.
No, where are 2 more people at?
Right, seriously.
I will go find neighbors. Don't think I won't.
Right, seriously. We have 2 people watching on this today.
100%. Check out Dementia Friends. You won't regret it.
Thank you. Appreciate that. But, really at the heart, this is, like I said, really a grassroots kind of community-driven movement, essentially, to, raise the awareness collectively across all community sectors. And again, I think that's the thing that sticks out to me the most is, again, there's so many great resources like the Alzheimer's Association. My gosh, what they do for folks.
Incredible.
I try to make sure everybody I talk to, if they say dementia, I'm like, do you have a 24/7 helpline? Because here you
need it.
You're going to need it. So, huge advocate for the work that they do. But I think what I really love about the Dementia Friends movement is just this approach of working with every community sector and not just being and I'm not saying, that anybody's fixated on one particular sector, but I feel like right now, training or education opportunities, they're really available to people who work in the healthcare field or direct care workers, or, again, people who we think they should know about dementia because they work directly with these folks. But in reality, it's why would we not extend the same educational opportunity to our faith communities or to grocery stores or to restaurants
or to our bankers or to our advice, everyone,
elder law attorneys, just anybody,
everyone.
So it's when people are who's your audience for this?
Everybody.
Everybody. Yeah, I know that's a lofty goal to make every Hoosier in this state a dementia friend, but like truly, we all need to have, again, this understanding of what are these people experiencing and how can I help them? How can I lessen that or break down that stigma like we've talked about before? I mean, it's like, think about my own family. My grandparents loved to go out to eat. They loved traveling. My grandma was always in church. And it's like all of that stopped the moment she had this, the moment things really started to go downhill. Because again, that fear of
what do they think? What do they know? What do I?
If she has an accident while we're out to eat, what are we gonna do?
Yeah.
Time those restaurants don't have incontinence supplies, bathroom, but why couldn't they? It's like, why couldn't they have that? Just at least bringing this conversation to the table and just having these organizations or businesses like, again, they just don't realize how often maybe they are coming into contact with these people, or maybe their own employees are caregivers for their loved ones back home.
Or maybe their family members have signs and symptoms that they're just not noticing. And it's 1 hour also.
1 hour.
1 hour. So if everybody just get on one live Zoom and do one hour.
And that's the thing too, is we, of course, all of our sessions have transitioned over to Zoom over the last year. And, I am hopeful we'll get back to in-person sessions, but like I said, I mean, we do aim to, bring this education to different organizations and like I said, different businesses, but, we still offer these for community members. So, if you don't necessarily feel that you represent any one particular sector, or you're retired, or just whatever the case is, we still have opportunities for you to become dementia friends. So it's just, me, I could just go on for days about.
I love it. And I love the work that you guys do. And you are a great representation of dementia friends. And I obviously have been to session.
Yes.
One of
you
the
are a dementia friend.
I am a dementia friend. And so we will, of course, put all of the contact information in the comments, because if anybody is watching the replay and you're like, I want to be a dementia friend, because you should, then we'll put the information on where to learn more about that. And then my last question that I just know people are dying to know is, what is your favorite go-to self-care practice?
When I first read that this question was coming, at first I thought, oof, I am the wrong person to talk about self-care, because I do not do a very good job of taking care or making that time. Truly, at this point, I work 3 jobs. I feel like all I do is work. But when I gave myself about 1 more minute to really process the question, it was like, this is so clear. Dancing. And there's like one specific day of the week, like afternoons too. If my boyfriend is out of the house for some reason, oh my gosh, it's like the moment I'm alone, I run over.
Dance Party USA.
Oh my gosh. Like, we live in an older neighborhood too. So like all of our neighbors are, I'd say 75 years or older. And I mean, there will be times I'll walk outside and I'm like, I need to go turn that down, because it is like the house.
Mindy's just turning up.
Huge subwoofer. But I mean, I grew up dancing, and it's like thinking about my grandparents' house. Like, I used to come home from school, kick my grandpa out of the back room and just be like, I'm dancing. Like,
that's so funny.
And leap through the house and spin and turn and all those things. So, although it's something I don't do every single day, it's definitely something that, really transports me back to some of the best years of my life, being with my grandparents, just being a child, being carefree, just feeling joy. So that is probably my favorite act of self-care.
So good.
And just music in general, I think. Like, there's just a moment where I don't have my headphones in, listening to music. And I feel like the older I get, the more I'm I don't know, moved by the lyrics of songs. It's like, it's not just like I've always been about the beat, if it makes
I'm opposite.
Interesting.
Interesting indeed.
The older I get, the more I'll listen to songs, or I'll watch YouTube where they have the lyrics, like,
yeah, and you're like,
and it's like,
interesting.
Oh, was that written about my life? Because I think it was. So I would totally say just dancing or music. Yeah.
I love that. Well, I will be checking in with you routinely to see if you are creating space for self-care. I will do it.
Please do. I need that.
Oh, I will do it. Don't you worry. Okay. So I think that's all of the questions that I have. We will put everything in the comments. Feel free to put any information too that I leave out or that I've forgotten, so that people can know how to reach you. Okay. Can you tell us the website real quick?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll give you Saccoa's first, which is just Saccoa, CICOA.org.
Okay.
So you can find, anything you know about that organization. Great tool there. And even our solutions guides that we print out on a yearly basis that have just all the resources in our database. You can get that right from our website too. And Dementia Friends would just be Dementia Friends Indiana. It's all one word.
Okay.
.org.
Perfect.
DementiaFriendsIndiana.org. And the only other thing I wanted to mention is, maybe you have some folks who have become dementia friends, or they're like, I don't know that you're going to really teach me anything. I've been a caregiver for all these years. Maybe you have a heart to get out in the community and educate. So I'm always looking to train volunteers, recruit and train volunteers who have a passion for raising awareness in the community. So those are called our dementia champions. So if anybody wants to kind of get one step beyond and become a champion, I would love that. I think the coolest thing about that is like truly everybody, again, has been impacted by it in one way or another. So it's just beautiful that everybody can go out there and read the script or go through the session, share their personal experiences too. And like I said, like encouraging folks to do the same with us. So yeah, we would love it. This has been great. I so appreciate you.
Yeah, you're so welcome. Thank you so much for joining me.
Of course.
I super appreciate you and all that you do and all that Saccoa does. And for those of you that are watching, we will catch you next time. And I hope you have a great evening.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.